Hi, this is 50/50, real estate podcast for the common man, where we talk about selling, buying, and investing in real estate. We aren't baffling you with BS. We're dazzling you with brilliance. We're not telling you how to become a millionaire. We're telling you stories, the truth, and the information no one is talking about. So sit back, listen, laugh, and enjoy 50/50, real estate podcast for the common man.
Hey everybody, JD here. Hope you're looking good and feeling fine. Hopefully you had a great time with friends, neighbors, relatives, and acquaintances. We're going to be discussing a little bit about real estate in a different way here. Usually I always tell people about purchasing and what the market's doing, selling and what the market's doing. But I've seen a new trend. It's always common in a down market. I've seen it so many times, and we're going to be discussing it pretty in detail on this podcast here. Well, what I have seen, and I've seen this back in the 80s, 90s, about the mid-2000s when the whole market crashes, and I'm starting to see it now. You get a lot of the people over the past 4 years that got sucked into buy properties as investors. Quick money, fix and flip. Oh boy, just put a little lipstick and rouge, a little floor in the box, and you'll be able to make $50,000 to $100,000 easy. Quick money. Well, that was true for a while, but then you had a lot of people who got caught in the wrong timing. They purchased their homes the past couple of years. They bought them at way overinflated prices. They got caught with or involved with these sleazy real estate agents that just wanted to make a quick buck off of them and said, the one on down the street sold for this, and there's 20 offers in 20 minutes, and they're bidding 20, 50, 100,000 over price. Geez, all you have to do is just vacuum the carpet and you make money. And these gullible new investors and older investors bit on it hurt like in sinker. And what happened is, these people got caught with their pants down, and now they have these houses they can't sell, overinflated houses, and they can't sell them, and they're paying payments, and they're losing money every single month that they have the house up on the market, and it just keeps losing. So you have to pay the payment on it and the upkeep, and the money keeps going out the window, down the toilet every month, and they get desperate. They get desperate because they don't have a lot of money to hold these properties. Maybe 3 to 6 months worst case scenario that they have in reserve to pay the payments and the overhead, because they thought, I'm just going to buy a home and flip it so quick, and geez, before I even pay the first payment, I'll be walking away with $1,500. Well, in their dreams. But I'm not blaming them, because they got conned into believing this from really sketchy real estate agents that just wanted to make a quick buck, and they got caught up in the feeding frenzy of everybody putting signs out in their yards and making 10, 50, 100,000 over market, 12 offers, selling in cash. So they just went, makes sense. I'll buy a couple of investment properties. I'll go in there, put a coat of paint, and vacuum the carpet, and I'll make some great money. What happened is the market's completely changed, and these people were caught with their pants down. And I'll tell you, they don't know what to do. They're panicking, and I have seen it so many times. 35 years in real estate, and I have seen it so much time. So what they do is they go, I can't sell their home. I'm desperate. My savings is dwindling. I'm going to do a rent with an option to buy. I'll rent it out, and I'll do an option to buy, and that's how I'll find my buyer. and it's a scam. Probably, I'd say 60 to 70% of rents with options to buy never close. They're total scams, and I'm going to explain to you guys why it is. So just put yourself in the seller's place. Bought a home, can't sell it, basically going broke, and he bought it for an overpriced price. And so he says, well, look, I thought I could get $400 for this. Boy, I can't even come close to that. So I'm going to do a rent with an option to buy and go $410. So he's going to go $10,000 over really what he can even get in today's market if he's lucky. And he's going to go, well, look at, normal rents about, I'm just using this as an example, $1,800 a month. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell the renter, well, I'm going to need an option money. So come in with $5,000. We'll put that in the next 2 years, 1 or 2 years, and we're going to put that towards your down payment. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge you a little extra for rent. So it's up $1,800. I'm just using that as an example. I'm going to charge you $2,000. Okay. So the extra $200 a month, we'll put that towards a little bank account, a little escrow account, and that'll build so you have enough when the option's ready and you're ready to buy the home. You have enough for the down payment and closing costs. So people go, well, that's great. Wow, yeah, I love the house, love the neighborhood, love everything about it, and wow, we'd be renting anyway. So this is a good chance to do a rent with an option to buy. Now, a lot of times people who do rent with options to buy have bad credit. They've had a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, terrible credit. They can't buy a home. So they really don't have any options. And that's the thing that these scummy investors are looking for. The person who can't buy a home, bad credit, bad income, bad everything, and they're desperate. So what they do is, like I said, they come in. We're going to do a rent with an option to buy in 2 years, and we're going to $5,000, and the rest will go to your equity, and the rest we'll put aside. The extra $200 we'll put aside, and boy, in 2 years you have enough to buy this home. Wow. Oh man, he's such a godsend. This seller is such a neat guy. Wow. Oh wow, man, I can't believe how neat this guy is and how nice this guy is to do a rent with an option to buy. Wow, folks, talk about getting hosed and taken advantage of, and I have seen it so many times. I've seen it in the 90s, I've seen it in the 80s, I've seen it in the mid-2000s when the market collapsed and these people were holding properties you couldn't get rid of. So you go in and you purchase a rent with an option to buy. You're putting this money out, and you think, well, in 2 years it'll be our house. So we'll fix it up, we'll work on the yard, we'll put a new deck on it. Oh, we'll put new linoleum, we'll really make this house great, because in 2 to 3 years we'll be able to buy the home. Well, the landlord isn't doing anything because he's saying, well, look, they're going to own the home in 2 years, so I'm not going to put any effort in. And you're thinking as a renter with the option to buy, well, geez, we can fix it up in 2 years, and we'll have a really nice house when we execute the option. 2 years go by. Well, guess what? The housing market goes down, and it's gone down probably 10 to 15% just in the past 6 months, and it's continuing on going down, and it goes down and down. So in 2 years, right, all of a sudden you want to exercise the option, and the mortgage company, I mean, you're not going to have cash, because if you're renting, you're paying a lot of money in rent. So, and the only cash you have is the option money that you put down and the little $200 a month that kind of went in a little escrow account. So you try to go to a mortgage company, and let's say you have a real bad credit. It's terrible. You had a foreclosure, bankruptcy, so on. And they go, well, sorry, we can't get you a loan. And you're like, what? And you're like, yeah, you have really bad credit. You need at least 3 to 5 years to really get your credit back up. So you're a little premature. You really maybe got to get a little bit better job, or you've got to pay your bills on time. And we really need to see that you're back on your feet, but you need at least 3 or 4 years. But remember, you did a rent with an option to buy, and you've been paying on this house for 2 years or 3 years, and now you go, oh no, I can't get a loan. Oh, now what I do? So you go over to the seller and you say, look, we don't want to exercise the option, and we just can't qualify. And guess what the seller does? He goes, okay, no problem. You've got to be out by the end of the month. And you go, well, don't we get all my money back? No, you're not going to get it unless it's on the contract, which is 99% chance that when these guys write a rep in the option to buy, they definitely aren't going to give you the money, all that money back, that you've been paying for 2 years. So now you're out your option money, you're out all the money, the extra $200 a month that you paid for 2 years, and you've just remodeled a really nice house for the seller. And they say, see you later, bye, thank you. You're mad and you're angry and you're screaming and yelling and terrible and blah, blah, blah. And there's really no recourse. So you basically have to leave. And guess what the seller does? They just find another pigeon with bad credit, and they do a rent with an option to buy on an overpriced house, and they do the same thing. Now, let's say you could qualify. Let's say you do a rent with an option to buy and you do qualify, right? But the market goes down the tubes, and you've contracted it for 10, and 2 or 3 years from now, the house is only worth $350, and the appraisal comes in at $350, and you go, wow, we're not going to get the loan and we don't have the money to come up with $50,000 more than what it's appraised for. And guess what the seller does? Well, our contract price was $420, and that was the option. It's not my fault that the housing market went down. That's our contract and price. So you're going to have to come in with the difference, or find another place to rent. See you later, bye. So it's a big scam. I've seen investors do this, and all they do is search for bad credit, bad risk, really bad credit scores, people with no secure jobs. They stick them into these rent with an option to buy. They charge a little over what normal market rent is. They convince these people that they're going to get this house in 2 to 3 years, and it doesn't happen, and they keep all the money, and guess what? They just find another pigeon later on, and they just keep doing it and doing it, and they make all this money to recoup what they pretty much lost when they originally bought it and they couldn't sell it. So guys, if you're out there and you're doing rent with an option to buy, be really, really careful that you're not caught up in this scam. And if you do, write in the contract that it's the contract price in 2 to 3 years will be what the appraised price is. And if you don't qualify, you get your option money back plus the extra money that you paid for above the rent. And then that way you're not going to be left holding the bag and getting all the investor to hold all your money, and you're left with nothing and basically just got hosed. So like I said, if you're doing rent with an option to buy, make sure that option money is maybe as little as you can put down. Make sure, like I said, in a year or 2 or 3, if you exercise that option, get the option deposit back if you don't qualify or don't want to continue the option, and the extra added money that you paid over and above the rent that went in like the escrow account to maybe add to your down payment, that you get that back too. And a lot of people don't. They don't even think about it. Seriously, you'd be so surprised of how many rent with options to buy that just get tossed out in the street and they're left with absolutely no recourse because they don't know what they're doing. So, like I said, you're going to be seeing a lot of that because people are going to be stuck in these investment homes and they can't sell them. So that's where they're probably going to be going to. Another thing is, if you think that rents are going to go up, I guess it's depending on where you are, but I've just seen way too many apartments being built everywhere. Apartments. And I go, wait a minute. First of all, I see all these places laying off people, cutting hours, things along that lines. They're not hiring. So if you get a city and you have all these apartments and you're not getting like a major company that's moving in, let's say you had a Google or an Amazon or some big company, and they say, hey, coming to your city, Amazon's coming in and it's going to generate 30,000 new jobs. Then you can justify like, wow, I can see why all these apartments are being built. But a lot of times that's not happening. You just see these apartments being built and you're like, wait a minute, there's no companies that are bringing people into the town, so who's going to occupy these? And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of big companies with a lot of apartments they won't be able to fill. And I see it now. I mean, some of these apartments, I just don't. I think what they did is they had short-term loans, and these loans are becoming due, and they can't pay them back. So some of these apartment complexes, half of them are done, and maybe 25% of that half is only rented, and the rest are just sitting there, halfway done, and they're not. I don't see anybody building them out or anything like that. So I think in the next maybe year or two, you're going to see a lot of apartments that are just like sign a year's lease, get 3 months free, or you're going to see a lot of rents that usually were like $1,500, like please, $1,100, $950 if you sign a year or 2 years lease. They're going to be desperate because they're going to be on paying construction loans and paying commercial loans that they're going to have somebody in there just to make the bleeding a lot slower because, like I said, they're going to be stuck with it. And I see it. I see a lot. I'm like, man, another apartment complex. Man, these people are just going to get hosed because I don't see anybody coming into the town and bringing in jobs. So who's going to fill these apartments when there's no jobs coming in? So I think what you're going to see, folks, is a lot of the rentals are going to down. Plus, I think if people don't do rent with options to buy and they just have rental properties and they can't get their rents, what they're going to do is they're just going to negotiate the best that they possibly can to just get somebody in there, so they're not just throwing money out the window. It's like, well, my payments are $2,000. We can get somebody in there for $1,800. At least we're not eating $2,000 a month paying the loan off. So that's one thing I see coming down the pike. Here's a lot of desperate people who bought investment properties, or people that just bought properties and they've gotten transferred, or they've gotten divorced, or they lost their jobs and they're buried in these things and they can't sell them. They're going to be renting them, and like I said, they're going to be trying to get anything they possibly can just to stop the pain. And these Airbnbs, you got so many people, Airbnbs and Airbnbs. And there's a lot of laws now that are happening where HOAs are saying we don't want Airbnbs anymore, and they're just saying, sorry, you can't do short-term rentals. So now these people are like, wow, okay, half my income is gone because I was making $5,000 a month and just renting them out a week at a time, and now I have to rent them on a month-to-month, or I have to rent them on a year's basis. So now I'm going to get half the income. Or a lot of cities are saying, look, at Airbnbs, we're going to treat them just like hotels, because hotels are saying, hey, look, we got to go with licenses and health standards and all these permits we need. And then an Airbnb just, hey, great, I'll just buy a home and I'll just rent it out short term. So a lot, I think what you're going to see, and it's already happening a lot in a lot of big cities, is they're saying, Airbnbs, we're going to start treating them like hotels. And now people are like, oh man, I have all these fees I have to pay, and this fee and that fee and this fee and so on. Oh, I can't afford this, and nobody's going to be paying rent this high. So I'm going to have to start, I'm just going to sell them now. So they're going to be selling them, and there's going to be that whole amount of homes that are going on the market. Or, like I said, they're just going to take the loss and get out of them and just say, look, it's not worth holding these properties anymore. I'll just take the loss and lick my wounds and just sell them. So you're going to probably get a lot of Airbnb properties in the next year or two that are just, thrown on the market just to get out from under them. Another thing is, you get a lot of people and they've bought these overpriced homes and they're stuck. They say they lost their jobs, or if they're in the military, they get stationed some other place and so on. And they say, oh, we've lived in them for like 3 or 4 or 5 years, and we try to sell it, and we spent 6 months, 3 months to try to sell it. We just can't get a price. We owe way too much than it actually is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we'll just rent it. We'll just rent it. We're making it an investment property. So they go out and they rent these properties, and they don't make a profit. They just cover what their expenses are. And then after, say, 5, 6, 7 years from now, the market kind of goes up, and they go, wow, we can sell this and make some really good money. We can make maybe $200,000 now, where before we could barely make it work. Now the market's changed. We can make some money. And they go out and they sell this property, but they don't even think about capital gains. They don't even think about that. And so many people have come to me, my realtor never even told me this. My real estate agent never told me capital gains. He just told me, hey, if we can't sell it, rent it out and move to California or Texas or Florida. And then when you're ready to sell it, great. When the market comes back, we can sell it, get your money back, and maybe make you a few dollars, and so on and so forth. And then these people do it, they sell it, they close on it, and, all of a sudden the next year they get a IRS, statement saying, hey, you owe us $20,000 or $30,000 or $50,000 in capital gains taxes. And they go, what? Nobody told us this. So I always tell people, a lot of people who I list and they go, well, John, if we can't really get our price, we can always rent it for 5 years or 3, 4, 5 years. And then when the market comes back, we'll sell it. And I'm like, yeah, but are you familiar with the capital gains tax? And they're like, what? And I'm like, well, what you're doing is you're converting your personal property over to an investment property. See, if you have a personal property, and let's say you're married and you live in that property, let's say 2 out of 5 years. You live in it for 2 years, maybe you get transferred, maybe you lose your job, maybe, I don't know, maybe, who knows, you come in with a lot of money, you think, wow, let's just sell it and move up. As a married couple, you can make $500,000 profit. Yeah, you heard me right. $500,000 as a married couple, $250,000 profit as a single person, and not pay any capital gains tax at all. Now, I'm not giving you tax advice here. Not a tax consultant. Please consult your tax consultant or your tax man for advice. I'm just giving you some things to talk about. But what happens is, let's say you have that much equity in your home, but you decide to flip it into a rental because you think, oh, we don't have any loans, or boy, our loans are about half now, and we can make a really, really good investment, and boy, we can get a good positive cash flow here. And then you flip your property that you lived in into a rental. You've just given away 15 to 20% of your equity in taxes when you sell it, but people don't tell you that. The real estate agents just want to list your home and make their commission and move on. And I have seen so many people that I've talked to and like, oh yeah, we got this big, huge tax bill on capital gains when we flipped our house into a rental property. Nobody really told us that. If we knew that, we would have just sold our home and took the $500,000 and left all the way to the bank. And I'm like, well, guys, real estate agents aren't tax consultants. They're not, by law have to tell you anything. You should have just talked to a tax attorney or a tax consultant or an accountant, and they would have told you this. So, like I say, there's just so many things that I've seen right now. Another thing that I see, which to kind of wrap this up, is a lot of sellers, they're not getting the prices that they used to get. So many of them are like, oh, I'm going to sell my home, and then the real estate agents get on the MLS. They get the same information the past 3 years. The houses are all overpriced, and they're not that experienced, and except adjusting for down market the way it is. Because remember, interest rates are like 2%, 2.5%, 3%, they're like 6.5%, 7% now. And the market's really turned around. It's gone down 15, 20, 30%. Except adjusting for that, they just go, oh, here's what your house is worth. And they don't look at that's all been done on a past market. See, the only thing that you can do is you can only get comps from the past, not adjust for the future. So what happens is they just price these homes as if it was 3% interest rates, and they sit and sit. I have seen so many homes that have been on the market. I mean, here's a good example. There was, where I live, there at the beginning of the year, there was maybe in the neighborhood. This is just a neighborhood, and it's pretty nice neighborhood that I live in. It's kind of a planned unit development, and there might have been 13 homes up for sale. There's about 115 homes up for sale now. And there's probably going to be way more because so many people, they put their homes up the market. They've overinflated them, thinking, oh, yeah, the spring and the summer, the best hot market. Yeah, good seller's market. People aren't going to be buying. And as school starts getting back in August or September and everything starts slowing down, you can have a ton of sellers that panic. Going to start getting bank repos, foreclosures, or a lot of rent with an option to buy, where these people just start trying to do anything to save their home, and that's probably what's going to happen. So, folks, just wanted to tell you, talk to you a little bit about the rental situation out there and what I see coming. And if you're thinking about renting with an option to buy, I would highly not recommend it. Just rent a home, period, with no options and no complications and so on. Just rent it out, and then when you're done with it, you're done with it. And watch for a lot of rents starting to go down, and watch a lot of these new apartments when they're all being made. You're probably going to see new rent, half price, special rents, sign a year's lease, get 3 months for free. You're going to see a lot of negotiating with rents, a lot of incentives, all that. I've seen it before, and it's coming up now. Matter of fact, I've talked to a few people in different cities, and they're already seeing it. They're saying, JD, it's really funny because before we never saw it. I mean, it's like you pay what we want, and if you don't, you can live out in the street. And now they're saying, hey, 3 months rent, get a free blah, blah, blah. One was like, get a weekend vacation or something like that to a resort if you sign a year's lease. Going to be a lot of desperate investors that are just trying anything to fill these, because the fact is a lot of these people bought, and had built these apartments with really low interest rates, and those low interest rates aren't fixed. They might be short to 2, 3, 4 years, and when they become due, all of a sudden the payments go way up, and there's not going to be anybody in there, or they won't be able to think they're going to get $3,000 for an apartment when we're lucky to get $970, and they're just going to get anybody in there to stop the bleeding that they can. So, folks, that's kind of what I see coming in the rental market. And like I said, if you are thinking about renting a home, just go out and rent it. Do not do a rent with an option to buy unless you have an attorney that writes up the contract and you really protect yourself. And if you don't exercise the option, you get your option money back plus the added rent over and above what you pay. And even if you do rent an option to buy, whatever you do, don't stop remodeling the house. It's not yours until you actually close on it, because I've seen so many people who mentally think it's going to be their home, so they really fix everything up and so on and so forth, and then they can't buy it because bad credit, and the mortgage company says, hey, look, you had a foreclosure or you had a bankruptcy 2 years ago. We can't really give you a loan until 3 to 5 years from now. And you go, oh, wow, now what do we do? And you lose everything. So, like I said, folks, I hope you got a lot of education on this. Hopefully giving you some stuff to think about and protect yourself. And, I wish you luck. Like I said, if you rent or you purchase a home, whatever you plan on doing, remember, watch yourself. Read up, get good representation and good advice from people, and hopefully this got you thinking and maybe steered you to the right direction. All right, guys, have a great week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed the show, Real Estate for the Common Man. Please follow us or subscribe. Tell your friends, neighbors, relatives, and coworkers about us. We're on all your major podcast apps: Amazon, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. If you can't remember all that, just Google it, or have your friends Google Real Estate for the Common Man, and it will come up. Again, we thank you very much for your time, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. Hey, if you live in Colorado Springs and want to buy or sell a home, you can look us up at soldrealestatecompany.com as in I sold a home. Again, thank you very much. Have a very good week, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye for now.